Tomorrow, tariffs 25% on Canada and 25% on Mexico, and that'll start.
We're already seeing the fallout of the auto tariffs with this 2-week shutdown at the Stellantis plant.
Like Napa Valley and Sonoma and Lodi, making it a top global wine producer. But the state wine industry is facing a significant slowdown.
Travel to the U.S. right now. Do you feel like your friends and family feel comfortable traveling there?
No, nobody I know.
What if your bills skyrocketed? Your hours got cut and your groceries suddenly cost double, yet no one could tell you why. Across the United States, working families are feeling the quiet sting of an economic war they never signed up for. President Trump's 2025 tariffs, marketed as a path to American greatness, are now projected to cost the average household up to $2,000 more per year, according to multiple economic estimates. But this isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about the cold reality at the checkout line, the silence after canceled shifts, and the frustration of watching a full cart turn into an unaffordable luxury. From wine bottles collecting dust on store shelves to energy bills spiking in winter, every corner of daily life is feeling the squeeze. And it's not isolated. It's spreading like a quiet crisis cloaked in patriotic language, but leaving real people to pick up the tab. There's no recession, no war, no pandemic. So why does it feel like everything is falling apart? Welcome to the invisible cost of a trade war. And the worst part? We're just getting started. At factories across Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana, the mood has shifted from pride to unease, from stability to fear. Workers at GM Stellantis and their countless suppliers are no longer asking when the next raise is coming, but whether their next paycheck will arrive at all. Overtime hours have vanished. Production lines are stalling, and the tension is so thick it's drawing comparisons to the darkest days of the COVID-19 lockdowns. Yet this time there is no virus, no emergency health order, only a political decision with economic aftershocks. Trump's 25% auto tariffs have disrupted the cross-border supply chains that once flowed with precision. Parts now arrive late or not at all. Plants hesitate to invest, suppliers delay contracts, and employees brace for cuts that seem inevitable. For an industry that once symbolized the strength of the American middle class, this growing instability is more than just a cost of doing business. It is a signal loud and clear that the foundation is starting to crack. Behind the noise of tariff headlines, a quieter crisis is unfolding in everyday life. Small businesses across the U.S., especially in New England and New York, are struggling with soaring input costs.
Rising U.S. tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum are now driving up the cost of auto insurance. The Insurance Bureau of Canada says higher tariffs mean more expensive replacement parts, leading to price.
You make a decision. Do I buy my kids a gallon of milk and eggs, or do I get my brakes fixed? Do I pay my rent, or do I get my transmission replaced? It becomes very tough decisions for people to make.
Steel, aluminum, and auto parts now come with price tags inflated by trade war fallout, and the impact is immediate. Repair shops are charging more. Home builders are postponing projects. Families are paying hundreds more to fix their cars, heat their homes, or replace broken essentials before winter hits. In April 2025, U.S. wine exports to Canada plummeted by an astonishing 93%, the steepest decline in over 2 decades. But this wasn't a blip in trade data. It was a warning flare for an entire industry and a sign of how quickly America's economic base can unravel under pressure. At the heart of the crisis is California's Lodi region, a pillar of American wine production. Their revenues dropped by 30 to 35% in just one season. Fields were abandoned, machinery went silent, vineyard owners canceled contracts, and workers, many of them seasonal laborers with few safety nets, were sent home without notice.
I've had multiple farmers in the last week reach out and other winemakers saying that, hey, there's a vineyard here in Sonoma that the farmer can't find a buyer and they're giving the grapes away. All you need to do is come and pick the grapes out of the vineyard and you can.
RNDC, one of the largest distributors, began preparations to cut nearly 1,700 jobs across Los Angeles and Sacramento. Marketing teams were dissolved, bottling lines slowed to a crawl, and the pain didn't stop at the production level. Due to heavy reliance on imported materials like glass bottles, corks, and label stock, the cost of making a single bottle of wine has surged by 20 to 35%. For consumers, that means higher prices at grocery stores and restaurants. For small businesses, it means shrinking margins, fewer customers, and decisions about whether to cut hours or shut down altogether. But what's more alarming is the ripple effect. The wine industry doesn't stand alone. It's deeply entangled with trucking, printing, packaging, tourism, and even health sectors that depend on ethanol derivatives. When one link snaps, the others bend dangerously close to breaking. Even restaurants and bars, many already struggling post-pandemic, are scaling back. They're reducing shifts, slashing wages, and cutting stock. For service workers, it's another round of financial instability. For the broader economy, it's a loss of consumer spending and tax revenue. All of this from a sector that once contributed over $31 billion to the U.S. economy. A sector now eroding quietly under the weight of disappearing markets, skyrocketing input costs, and a foreign policy that treats economic fallout as collateral damage. This isn't just a wine story. It's a clear, bitter taste of what happens when trade wars come home. The wine crisis was just the beginning. As Canadian buyers vanished from store shelves, they also disappeared from hotel lobbies, outlet malls, and beaches across America. In key states like New York and Florida, Canadian tourism has dropped by up to 60%, triggering a wave of cancellations, lost revenue, and shuttered storefronts. Canadians' once loyal visitors are now choosing to stay home or spend elsewhere. And like the wine sector, tourism is revealing just how quickly political decisions can gut entire industries without firing a single shot. What's happening now isn't just delay, it's disintegration. America's once reliable supply chains, especially in the auto industry, are buckling under the pressure of tariffs, trade barriers, and redirected trust. For decades, the US and Canada operated as deeply integrated manufacturing partners. Auto parts crossed the border 6 to 7 times during production, moving through a web of suppliers' plants and transport routes in perfect coordination. But that system is now unraveling. Tariffs have disrupted the delicate balance, triggering material shortages, shipping delays, and stalled factory lines in states like Michigan, Ohio, and Kentucky. Investment in new production has frozen, expansion plans have been shelved, and the consequences don't stop at cars. The same breakdown is hitting sectors like agriculture, construction, and retail. When the supply chain breaks, shelves stay empty, costs skyrocket, and productivity grinds to a halt. This is no longer a temporary disruption. It's a systemic fracture, and it's happening in slow motion until it suddenly isn't. It all started with one move. On April 3, 2025, the United States imposed a 25% tariff on Canadian-made vehicles not covered under the USMCA agreement. At first glance, it looked like just another bold trade maneuver. But beneath the headlines, that single policy decision shattered one of the most advanced and tightly integrated industrial partnerships in the world. Canada sends 85% of its vehicles to the U.S., a flow built on decades of cross-border cooperation, shared infrastructure, and synchronized production. In this system, auto parts move between plants in both countries as many as 7 times before a car reaches a dealership. It's not just trade, it's co-manufacturing. And Trump's tariff turned that ecosystem into a minefield. Within days, the damage became visible. In Windsor, Ontario, a Stellantis plant furloughed 600 workers as operations stalled. In Michigan and Ohio, suppliers held off on new contracts, faced mounting uncertainty, and cut overtime. Tooling shops transport fleets and raw material providers. All of them began to feel the tremors. Investments froze, orders slowed, trust eroded. What was once a seamless just-in-time production chain was now a gridlocked system choked by red tape, unexpected costs, and retaliatory hesitation. Even small towns that relied on one factory or trucking route to stay afloat began to feel the weight of that one tariff. And this wasn't just about autos. This was about signaling to the world that even your closest partners can become targets overnight. That no agreement, no legacy, and no shared interest is safe from political calculation. In trying to win a trade war, the US had just fired the first shot at its own reflection. Canada didn't just respond, it retaliated with precision. A $30 billion counter-tariff package hit back at the core of American exports: autos, steel, wine, and agriculture. A matching 25% tax on US cars entering Canada was just the beginning. But this wasn't only about numbers. It was about breaking dependence. Prime Minister Mark Carney vowed to cause maximum damage to the U.S. economy, and a national Buy Canadian movement exploded overnight. Shoppers turned their backs on U.S. brands, importers rewrote contracts, even longtime allies began looking elsewhere. These two decisions, one bold, one retaliatory, set off the domino effect behind everything: empty hotels, Lost factory jobs, wine crises, supply chain meltdowns. Not by accident, not by natural disaster, but by design. As the damage piled up, lost jobs, price spikes, shuttered supply chains. President Trump took to the podium and declared a win. Canada had withdrawn its digital services tax, and the White House rushed to label it a diplomatic victory. Officials praised the move as proof that America's tough stance was working, that pressure had made allies back down. But behind the photo ops and speeches, something else was unfolding. Factories were quiet, vineyards were bleeding, small towns were emptying, and average Americans were being asked to accept soaring prices and disappearing paychecks, all while being told that this was a triumph. So the question is, what kind of victory comes with this much collateral damage? And who exactly is paying for it? From rising grocery bills to frozen factory lines, from the collapse of wine exports to the mass exit of Canadian tourists. Every consequence we've covered points in the same direction. The cost of this trade war is landing squarely on the shoulders of ordinary Americans. So now we ask you, was it worth it? Was this the victory we were promised, or just the public dressed-up version of a private collapse? Share your thoughts in the comments. Are you feeling the impact? We want to hear your voice because no one else seems to be listening.